Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the November 16th, 2023 meeting of the Fitchburg Zoning Board of Appeals. I now call this meeting to order. Please be advised that FATV is conducting an audio and video recording of this meeting for public broadcast. I ask that anyone else in the audience who is recording this meeting to please identify themselves for the record now by standing, stating your name and city of residence. Is anyone recording? There's no point anymore because we can all just look at FATV. So thank you. We are now going to start the meeting by reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. And Mr. Reynolds, if you would lead us. Oh, okay. Mr. Gallagher, if you would lead us, please.
Yeah. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Mr. Gallagher. Okay. So I would ask that everyone, including myself at this time, place any of your electronic devices on silent so we can all enjoy each other's company uninterrupted by buzzing. All right. So the first matter we're going to call tonight is a matter that did not originally appear on the agenda. This was a matter that was scheduled for November 14th, 2023, which was Tuesday. That case was opened on Tuesday, but was continued because we did not have a quorum to decide the matter. We do have one member who has the appearance of a conflict of interest due to a family relationship to the applicant that was disclosed, and Mr. Gallagher has kindly recused himself again just now. So at this point in time, Mercedes, the matter number doesn't appear on this one. Thank you. At this point in time, we are going to call ZBA 23-31, which is 285 River Street, Laura Nario. This is an application for a special permit under Section 181.313 D11 and 12 of the Fitchburg zoning ordinance to continue the use of an auto sale and add auto body services pursuant to Section 181.94 located in the neighborhood business district. Thank you. Now, again, because this is the first matter called and we need the microphones so that the applicants can be heard for the meeting. So I just ask that you move seats for a moment.
Excuse us, thank you.
Okay, welcome. So if you can each please state your name and city of residence for the minutes.
Okay. I'm Lauren Nario. I reside in Fitchburg, Massachusetts.
I'm Jorge Nario. I'm for Fitchburg, Massachusetts.
Welcome to the meeting. Can you please give us a little summary of what you're here to ask for today?
So we are looking for permission to start an auto body, auto dealership, and auto repair facility at 285 River Street in Fitchburg. Now, I know right now it is, I guess previously it was approved for auto repair and auto dealer, used dealership, but we would like to amend that to include the body shop as well.
So the last special permit that was issued was to Zachary Palladian, and that was for motor vehicle sales. And that had a provision on it that it expired upon transfer of the business. And he was a lessor, I believe, of Mr. Pappas, who's the owner, correct?
Yeah.
So can you confirm that he is no longer at that, operating a business at that location?
He's, from what Mr. Pappas has told
Can you
us, he is
confirm
not.
that for us?
Correct.
He's gone been vacant since he left about 5 or 6 months ago.
Okay, and the lease is terminated, and he has no more leasehold rights in that property?
No.
Okay, thank you. So have you begun operations yet at this property?
No,
Okay.
we have not.
And you're going to take a lease on the property?
Yep, we are.
Has the lease commenced yet, or no?
No, Mr. Pappas has been very gracious to us and given us time to make sure that we're allowed to, do business there before we commit to any lease.
Is this going to be a term tenancy? Is it going to be a month-to-month? Do you?
No, term. We want them to stay. They plan on making an investment. I know the zoning board had had a problem with the last tenant, and I can understand why. He was very aggressive. He did well. But then COVID hit. He couldn't get automobiles. He turned it into things that weren't really permitted at the time. But these people seem like the right people, and we hope to do a long-term lease. There's also talk of possibly a rent-to-own situation, which would be great.
Okay. But you have signed on the application as the owner of the property, correct? All right, so that any conditions we impose on this applicant, you have accepted by doing that as well?
Sure.
Just want to make sure you understand. Okay.
Thank you.
So that special permit, I think we're going to make a finding that it had that automatically terminated, which opens up for you, and I understand you'd be looking for a similar permit, correct?
Yes, yeah.
Except that you wanted to do the repairs there as well?
Originally, I thought that it was for repairs and the used dealership, but we would also like to amend that to include a body shop.
Okay.
So auto body, yep.
Are there any modifications to the structure on the exterior? Are you going to enlarge the building at all?
No.
Is there going to be a spray booth inside?
Eventually, we will, but for right now, we wouldn't do that right away. It would be something that we'd be doing a little bit further in the future.
And would that, if you were to do that, would it be within the current footprint?
It would be within the confines of the building. There's already enough space for us to be able to do that. Yep.
Okay. You're aware that's going to require some special inspections from fire department?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. All right. So the last special permit that was issued had some conditions of operation on there. Mercedes, I only have the first page of that and not the second. Do you have the second page of this for the continuation?
Oh, no, I don't.
Okay.
No, I have it the same, yeah.
All right. So I'm going to take a moment while we're having others question and just make sure that I have all of those former conditions in front of me.
Okay.
But I'll go through what I do have right now. So there were some junk vehicles, junk parts that were being kept at certain points in the front and especially in the rear of the property. On a site visit last week, some of them are still there. There is still some scrap in the back.
Okay.
So removal of that scrap or any inoperative vehicles. So in other words, we don't want junk vehicles just stored there. We understand that you may be fixing somebody's vehicle, but no junk vehicles stored there.
Absolutely. Yep.
And along those lines, no exterior storage of parts or supplies. There was a maximum of 8 vehicles to be displayed for sale, and that's because the lot is small.
Yep.
Yep. When we needed to apparently define what a junk vehicle was. So that was any vehicle that was inoperable, unregistered with expired inspection unless they're held for sale for no more than 60 days. So,
Understood, yep.
Yep.
That,
the hours of operation were to be Monday to Saturday, 9 to 5, and Sundays, 12 to 5. Are those within the hours that you are going to operate?
yes, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, and then Saturday, what did you say for the hours on Saturday that they had?
12 to 5.
12 to 5? 12 to 5 on Saturday?
Me?
Is that,
That would be fine, yeah. Would we be able to open earlier if we found the need to?
If you wanted to have hours of operation earlier, you should request them at this point in time.
You want to do earlier on Saturday? Could we do 10 a.m. on Saturday? Would that?
So what you would want to do is 10, so Saturday is 9 to 5, Sunday is 12 to 5.
Okay.
Would you want Sundays to be 10 to 5?
No, Sundays will be fine, 12 to
Okay.
5 on Sundays.
So on
yes.
Saturdays, they can open at 9. And if you asked me that and I told
did.
you what Sundays was, I'm sorry about that.
Thank you.
Professional signage to be installed. And this professional signage, so temporary vinyl banners are not permanent signage. They're not professional signage, hand-lettered signs, cardboard stand. So the name of the business should be proudly displayed on the
Absolutely.
building with a professional sign. We had a plot plan that was submitted with the January 2020 hearing that showed the location of snow removal and the lined car parking spaces.
Yep.
And I think we'd want you to adhere to that, especially if you're going to adhere to the same number of vehicles for sale.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then there's an expiration clause. So in other words, with businesses like this, we like to know who we're dealing with, who the permit applies to. And so if the business were to transfer to somebody else, then the special permit that you had would expire. And like you're doing right now,
Yep.
somebody new would need to come to apply.
Okay. Yes.
So the application was in the name of Lauren Nario.
Yeah. Myself and my
Are
husband.
you going to operate under an LLC or other corporation?
It would be an LLC. It will be under Sasha Automotive.
Have you formed that yet?
No, we were informed by our lawyer to wait until this process started going because he didn't want us to start it and then have to make changes because we hadn't signed the lease yet. So but I do have another meeting with him next week so that we can kind of review what we went over today. So,
Do you think that within 30 days you would be able to know
yeah.
what the name of the entity is?
yep, absolutely. Yep, he can do that within a couple of days of this meeting. So,
Okay. So assuming the rest of the board would like to grant the special permit, what we would need you to do is submit that within 30 days, the name and proof of the existence of the corporation so that it's been created or the LLC has been created,
Yep.
so that we have a special permit in the name of something that actually exists.
yeah, that's what the lawyer had instructed us. That would be an issue if we didn't make sure to do that as soon as we were done with the meeting. So,
Right,
yep.
right. Okay. Have you reserved that name yet, Sasha Automotive?
We have not reserved it, but he did do the research that it is available. So that was yesterday. So as
Have you
of right then, it was available.
Have you seen the plot plan dated January 2020?
Yes. Yep,
Okay.
we have.
Oh, good. And you don't have any problem with operating under the terms of that plot plan?
No, absolutely not. That will be perfect for us.
All right. Okay. How many employees are you going to have?
At this point, starting out, it will be my husband and myself, and then going forward, we do hope to employ people that live within Fitchburg, hopefully. So
Okay.
I would say probably a total of maybe 4 people, but obviously within the first year or so, it will just be the 2 of us.
Okay. And would there be up to 4 on the property at the same time?
Up to 4, yeah,
Okay.
depending on the day, I suppose, but
All right.
there might be time, because I'll be able to work from home primarily, doing the bookkeeping and that kind of stuff, so I won't actually need to be at the body shop all of the time. He'll be there. He'll live there.
Okay. Are you going to perform any other type of repairs or just the body work?
the body work and regular scheduled maintenance for customers' vehicles, but nothing, no overhauling or anything like that.
Okay. And sales, though?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. I am going to open this up at this time for any public comment.
Okay.
Did you have anything else you wanted to offer before we moved on to that?
No, just excited, I guess. Very excited.
Very excited. Are you ready to open at any point in time after the permits are granted?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Do you have a dealer's license?
Not yet. That's the next step, because we kind of couldn't start that process until we knew if we'd be able to do business there.
And do you know what you need to do to,
I have an idea. I worked at a dealership previously, so I do have an idea of how that works. So I have reached out to a few people and have confirmed it might be a little bit of a process, but, you know, we should be able to do it.
okay. Have either of you ever held a dealer's license before?
No.
Okay. All right. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any person in the virtual audience who would like to make a comment on, for, or against this petition? If so, raise your hand. I see none virtually. Is there any person present in the audience who would like to make a comment on, for, or against this petition? Okay. At this point, if you could approach the podium, state your name and city of residence, please, and go forward.
Hi, my name is Jimmy Pappas, and I'm the owner of the property. I'm kind of excited to have these people step forward and want to take the property. They've been in business for a long time for themselves, and I think they're going to make it really work. And that's what this property needs. It's not a very big property. It can't grow into something huge, but it takes the person that's going to be there and work it to have it be successful. In addition, I know some of the criteria of the ZBA talks about, is it harmonious with the neighborhood and whatnot. Real quickly, to the right of it, we've got residential units, but before we hit the residential units, there's a driveway that services that, and then there's probably a 3,000 square foot pizza place that is now not running, but probably will be in the future. Across the street, there's auto sales, there's a muffler shop across the street, and directly to the left of the property is the Nashua River. And then to the left of the Nashua River is the dry cleaning spot, which is now empty and for sale. And although the dry cleaning is gone, apparently in the listing for the sale, it talks about that land was contaminated with dry cleaning material. And so the surface cannot be dug up to be anything else. And it specifically says you cannot have residential there. So all the way around 285 River Street, there really isn't anything residential other than the buildings to the right, which seems like quite a big buffer. So I'm thrilled to have them here. We go through this process every 3 or 4 years where the building goes vacant. We have to get someone back in, and we do this whole thing. I think these people are the ones that are going to make it successful, stay there, and probably end up owning the property. So needless to say, I'm in favor of it, very much so.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Does anyone else like to make a comment on, for, or against? Seeing none, I am going to move to board members. Mr. Reynolds, do you have any questions for the applicants?
I do not, other than, so a comment, yes. As you're listening to the conditions and maybe reflecting on tonight, in your enthusiasm, make sure you ask for what you want.
Okay.
So I think at the hours of operation, I think you're comfortable.
Yeah.
But if you were wanting something different, it'd be incumbent upon you to say it.
Say it now. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So other than that comment, I don't have any questions.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Reynolds. Mr. Byrne, any
No,
questions?
I'm fine.
Okay.
Packet's complete.
Mr. McLaughlin, any questions?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm optimistic about this. We have running water, we have sewer, we have bathroom. Mr. Pappas is right. I've been on the board way too long, and the property's been before the board probably at least 4 times, maybe 5. I'm only cautious about one thing, but I'm optimistic, is that it's small, right? We've expanded the parking spots. There's 2 out back and 6 out front. But we're trying to do auto repair, auto body, and retail sales. That's the only thing I'm a little hesitant about initially.
Yeah.
It's a lot, and there's only 2 bays.
Yeah.
You know, auto body you're gonna need, you know, I know you guys are always trying to work on multiple vehicles, you're waiting for parts, you're doing things. Same with auto repair, you need a lift. So I just would like to kind of maybe talk through that a little bit. You know, are we taking a big leap, or do we start out with, do we get one piece of it and then, you know, see how all 3 are gonna fit? And again, it's just that it's there's only 2 bays and very little parking, so, but I'm optimistic this time this is going to be a success.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McLaughlin. Along those lines, you had stated that eventually you want to do the auto body.
Yep. So we're hoping within the first year that we'll be able to definitely get the paint booth, the spray booth in there. And, you know, my husband already has an established customer base. And being that I've worked in a dealership before, and I did all of the service writing, I did all of the scheduling, I definitely have a well-versed background to know how to schedule certain appointments and to make sure that does not get cluttered. So to kind of speak to what he was saying, it definitely would seem like it might be a little cluttered, but that our focus is that people can come to one place and have whatever they need done. And if that means that we know that we're going to have a vehicle in there for the auto body work done, then obviously we know that we need to make the room for that. Therefore, we also have storage at another garage that we have where we would be able to store vehicles if we need be. So we kind of already thought of how we would shuffle cars around if it became a little too crowded. And, you know, obviously the only thing that we're doing isn't going to just be selling cars. So where we would display the cars is going to be separate from where the vehicle will be getting the body work done. That vehicle will be parked in the back so that people don't see it from the front of the street, so it doesn't kind of cause an eyesore in the front. And we definitely think that our business plan and our structure of how we plan on doing the appointments and going forward with that would definitely be suitable for that location.
So in order to install the spray booth, you're going to have plans created. You're going to have those approved by the building department and like I said, the fire department. So there's a kind of a substantial process there before that's going to be approved. Would you mind sharing the address for off-site storage?
What is the Hamilton Street?
215.
215 Hamilton Street in Leominster.
Okay. As long as it's in Leominster, I'm not going to worry whether it's appropriate storage or not.
Very funny.
Leominster is not Fitchburg's problem.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay. About how many vehicles can you store at that site?
And Leominster?
Yeah.
4.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. I need to go through the special permit criteria with you, and I'm going to ask you to just respond on why you do or do not meet each of these criteria.
Okay.
So we need to find that the benefit to the city of what you're proposing to do and the neighborhood outweigh the adverse effects of the proposed use, taking into account the following factors. Number 1, the social, economic, or community needs which are served by the proposal.
How do I think that's going to?
How have you met that criteria?
Well, I definitely feel like we would meet that criteria because there aren't many places that you can go and buy a car or trade your car in, have your work done, have body work done. A lot of people don't realize when they are in an accident with their vehicle that sometimes it is more repairable than they would think, and they go out and just buy a new car because they think it's easier. We would offer a little bit of, the best of both worlds. You can trade it into us. We can help you with your insurance adjuster. We can take care of all those things. I feel like that would be great for the city to have another location that would be able to offer everything at one place.
Okay, thank you. Are there any concerns with traffic flow and safety, including parking and loading? In other words, do you think the parking is adequate to meet what you're proposing to do?
Absolutely. We've talked about it with many people. I've talked to an engineer about it, and he agrees that, with the way that we've planned to do things, it should not be a problem at all.
Okay. Are the utilities and other public services adequate to meet your needs? You have municipal water and sewer there?
Yeah.
I question what's going to happen when you have the spray booth installed, but I think we need more information before we can make a judgment call on whether that would have an impact or require more utilities.
Right.
The neighborhood character and social structures, I think Mr. Pappas spoke about the neighborhood. Would you agree with him?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Any impacts on the natural environment, including drainage? Are you going to have any waste off-put from the activity?
No.
Okay.
No.
Any potential fiscal impact, including any impact on city services, tax base, and employment?
Well, we definitely hope to be able to employ at least 2 other people that hopefully live in Fitchburg so that we can kind of give back. And it's not just one person that you're helping, it's their entire family that you're really employing at that point. You're helping them provide for whoever it is, for their family or for themselves. And, we look forward to doing that. We really do.
And I believe you are both residents of Fitchburg as well, right?
We are, yeah, born and raised.
Thank you. All right. Without objection from the other board members, I am ready to close the public hearing.
Before we do,
Okay?
Madam
Oh.
Chair,
Go ahead.
I just wanted to give the applicant one more chance just to ask, was there any concern with any of the conditions that you've heard tonight?
No. I was kind of prepared. I did a lot of homework on this, so I think I understand.
Good.
All right.
Thank you.
I think.
All right, then. Without objection, now I'm going to close the public hearing. And I would refer to board members for discussion on the allowance and any conditions. Are board members generally in favor of allowance?
Well,
Yes?
what you asked us.
All right. Any conditions that are suggested by board members? I would say that we'd start out with adoption of all of the prior conditions,
Correct.
with modification of the transfer provision to refer to the applicant as well as any LLC that is submitted by name to the building department within 30 days.
Yep.
And then with this issue of the spray booth, I think most of that is outside of our purview. I think most of it has to do with building inspections, fire inspections, but where it's not something that you're immediately launching into, it's not something that there are any plans drawn out for. I think I would like a review before there is before that comes into operation, just to make sure that there's no issues that are going to affect the exterior of the building. That's
Put a
about it.
review on it for December.
I don't, well, December of next year?
No, this year. You said you wanted to
They're
do
not
it
going to be
quick.
ready in a month?
No.
They're
With
not gonna have the plans
As far
in a
as the
month.
spray booth is concerned?
You're not going to start the spray booth operations for some indefinite period of time,
Right. It'll
So-
be,
Word about the spray booth, I'm
Yeah.
talking about the regular operation.
the regular operations. So you would prefer to have a quick review on the regular operations once,
Well, yeah, we'll push it out further, let's put it out
Yeah.
until March.
yeah, okay. So for a review date, we'd look for the March meeting, and that is March 12th of 2024. And then I just want to make a very simple condition that the applicant is to schedule a review with the ZBA prior to beginning spray booth operations. Any objection to that? So that would be a new one. Okay. Looking for a motion on the allowance of the special
So
permit.
moved. What?
We're adopting the original conditions,
Yes.
some of them, right? I just want to tidy some things up
Okay.
with regards to that all work will be performed within the building, all repair work. And we've covered the outside storage of parts, hours of operation, dumpster location.
So we had a plan dated January 2020, and that dumpster is not on the plan. It is currently to the rear left of the property. I think we've all seen it.
Yeah, I think, maybe get up and going and, we're going to put on for a review period.
Okay.
right, If you're approved, right? And then, just keep in mind that the conditions are subject to review and change, right? Again, we're all optimistic. I think this is going to be, the right business. But it's 3 businesses in a small location, and you've got the auto body, so at some point, you're going to have a spray booth that's going to take care of one bay.
Yeah.
And then you're going to have one very narrow bay. And I guess your intent would probably be to try to put a lift in there.
The
Or
spray booth
something.
not just for paint. You can do it like they put it back together, the cars, and,
Yeah, I'm sorry, I started asking
Yes.
questions.
oh, sorry.
Yeah, I did, after we closed the public hearing.
So, permission, I guess, to,
So now I have to reopen the public hearing by motion, by consent.
I started out just making comments, but, I just want there to be an understanding on
Yep.
the review period and all that.
Yep.
This will allow you to kind of get a feel for which of the 3 and
Yep.
work best in the flow, and then get you up and running.
Yeah.
How's that
Thanks.
now? Okay. Closing the public hearing again. All right, any other conditions that you would like to incorporate?
No, I think we've captured them over time.
Okay.
We don't have a registered plot plan, so I think that, in light of, it's a similar business to the previous, that we could just adopt the exhibit
So,
It's dated 1/14/2020, if that was what was in our packet.
right before that, you'll see there is a certified plot plan, although the parking is, of course, different on that one. And the parking is not measured. It's drawn into the plan, but there is a certified plot
Yeah,
plan.
I mean, that was something we kept trying to
Yeah.
obtain. So just for record, what are we adopting?
We should adopt the January 14th, 2020 parking
Okay.
plan. Okay.
Great.
So again, do we have a motion on the allowance of the special permit?
I'll second it.
Okay. And all of those in favor of allowing the special permit with the conditions as stated?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Seeing none. We are a 4-person board right now. You're required to carry 4 out of 5 members, which you have just done. So congratulations, you have been granted a special permit. The special permit will issue in written form After it is filed with the city clerk, there is a 20-day appeal period before it becomes final. As a reminder, the special permit is required to be recorded at the Registry of Deeds
Okay.
before you are entitled to a building permit or a certificate of occupancy. So in other words, it has to be on record before it's active,
Okay.
okay? I wanted to wish you very good luck with the business.
Thank you so much.
Okay, I hope everything goes well and is successful for you. You do need to get your license next, so
Yes, yeah,
that's your next hurdle.
That's next
All
on the
right.
list.
We'll see you on March 12th.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Have a good
Good luck,
evening,
guys.
thanks.
Thank you.
Sunset Clause.
It was within the other terms.
Okay. There were so many other terms.
A lot of discussions. Calling the next case, ZBA 2023-08, Joanne Hamburg. This is 1341 Ringe Road. This is a review of the special permit under Section 181.94 of the Fitchburg zoning ordinance issued after remand from the Worcester Superior Court zoning appeal by consent of all parties and by order of the court to the Board of Appeals, dated September 27th, 2023, pursuant to Section 181.332, located in rural residential. Welcome to the meeting. If you can each please state your name and city of residence or business for the record.
My name is Louis Levine. I'm the attorney for the applicant permit holder on the special permit that the board issued on September 27th. The board issued, we've submitted a packet to the board. I think the attention of this board is only directed to one issue tonight, but we did submit a packet which includes an update on, for the board's just informational purposes, not discussion purposes, of the progress that's occurred since the meeting. A great deal of the construction work has been accomplished, especially completed with respect to the existing residents. A great deal of the hammering has been completed. We're on target to get it done, as you asked, by December 31st. Your decision requested a stormwater management. We've submitted that. During the hearing, there was a concern about some ledge outcroppings. Would they fall? Would they not fall? We've submitted a report and a resume from the geologist that he's inspected those ledge croppings, and they're all stable. Those are just fun facts for the board to be aware of. The reason I asked for this meeting tonight is pursuant to Condition 19, an easement or agreement was supposed to be granted to restrict an agreed-upon parcel in the rear that it would not be built upon. And the Condition 19 says this is to be granted to a nonprofit entity or an abutter with no financial interest in the property. Initially, the abutter that raised the concern, Christensen, in the rear, we agreed as to the area, and the attorney for Christensen had gone back and forth to a point with myself relative to the provisions of this easement agreement. On reflection, my client felt that it was more appropriate to grant it to the Homeowners Association, which is it's a nonprofit corporation. We've submitted the corporate documents, confirming that. It's a nonprofit corporation that is composed of the people who own the units, the buildings, the homes in the development. And many of those people are here tonight. They're a nonprofit entity. We have no financial interest. Mrs. McGurn is not a member. It's for the homeowners, basically, to govern and if they have any issues. For some reason, at that point, we went into kind of a vortex. City solicitor, had issues with it, and rather than continue to argue with the city solicitor, I suggested, because nobody else was doing anything at that point, I requested that it was a board's decision as to whether we comported with the decision. We do comport with what the decision says. It is to a nonprofit. We have no financial interest, and in fact, and so we had submitted the easement agreement, signed, not only granting it by my client, but accepting it by the homeowners association. And so suffice it to say, we just came here tonight to ask the board to acknowledge that that is correct. It's what the decision says, no more, no less. They're actually, this nonprofit idea, my memory, and again, I don't know whether it was on or off the record at the time of the previous hearing, and I think was raised that the homeowners association is a nonprofit entity. So I initially had reached out to the city through the city solicitor, asked him if the Conservation Commission would accept it. He said no, and not because of any issue with this project, but just generally it wasn't going to go anywhere. So this is the only nonprofit entity that seemed to fit the bill. So that's really all I have to say tonight. There's no more magic up my sleeve or anything like that. I think it's appropriate. I think it's consistent. It's not only consistent, it meets what the decision says. It was to a nonprofit entity, I'm reading from your decision, or an abutter with no financial interest. And so obviously, if Mrs. McGurn had a budding property, but she still owned the property, she wouldn't qualify. All right. But the nonprofit's a nonprofit. These folks are here tonight. The president of the association here. A lot of the members are here. I can't imagine anybody more appropriate to govern and make sure this area remains open, pristine, and landscaped. They have the most interest going forward, and I can't imagine a reason why they don't qualify. That's it. No more, no less. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Council. Before I move on to any other comment, there was a city comment from Conservation that this applicant needs to come in front of Conservation Commission for an update on the required work that has not been performed. That is from Jaime?
Jamie, yeah.
Jamie, the conservation agent. So that's a reminder to you, I think, from them.
Kind of a sidebar, but because of the board's allowances to go forward, a vast majority of the work that the Conservation Commission was telling us we had to get done, even though the permits gave us a lot longer to do it, is going to be done. So we will get in front of the Conservation Commission. As I said to you, the work is going to be done by December 31st. And that's okay.
And then we also, there's no name on this. Is there a name from the person who submitted this? This is from Mary Ellen Christensen. So this is a request that was submitted. The drain pipe on the I'm going to call it the Hamburg side of the property wall. It appears to be very high. It would take some time before water would get to it. Seems the water would be backed up on our side before it reaches the level of this pipe on her property. If you could kindly share this with the board and acting building commissioner for a professional opinion, thank you.
Madam Chairman?
And we have two pictures that are submitted here, which I don't know how well they show up on
Madam Chairman,
TV, but I wanted to show them so the
Madam Chair, I can't see them on the screen.
Yeah.
I think I forwarded it. I can send it again.
Can you forward them to me?
I did.
You did? Okay.
Madam Chairman, we're just, there was discussion at the last meeting when you approved this about that drain pipe. We're committed to do what we said. We're not, we're not finished with the work. So if someone had a concern prior to tonight and they would have sent us the picture, we would have replied probably through our engineer. Okay, but we just, we know about that. We represented that at the previous meeting. We're going to take care of it. Again, I don't know that it does anything to bring it up out of the blue tonight, but we will take care of it. We acknowledge, you heard from Greg Roy at the meeting. There was concern about the drainage. We explained why the pipe takes care of the drainage issue, and we will get it done. And obviously, when we get it done, the town is going to inspect it and assumedly, be happy-faced that we got it done. So.
Okay.
I think the board has concerns as well.
Vis-a-vis what?
It's just not finished yet.
It's not finished.
So I am going to
Right, we don't want to
share
wait
the
till it's
second
finished to
picture.
address the problem.
We're addressing it now. We're doing the work
We're
right
working
now.
on it, though.
The permit told us to get the work
So-
done by.
I don't want to engage in a randomized discussion
apologize.
here and there, because we have a lot of people here tonight, and that's just confusing for everybody. Thank you. Mr. Commissioner, are you able to give any comment on this while you're with us?
So what specifically are you seeking comment on? I'm just, again, walking into this. I don't even know if I have all of the material. I've been getting it emailed to me piecemeal.
It's the statement is that the drain pipe seems to be too high and the water would be too backed up before it got there. I will tell you that unfortunately, from the visual of this picture, I can't tell that. I don't know if you can. And I really think this matter probably is best addressed by having you look at the pictures or on site at a later point in time and just making sure if there's any issue to communicate that to the permit holder. Would you agree?
I would agree with that. I would also, I'm just trying to increase my screen. So I would also suggest having the town engineering department come out with me because they're the experts on roadway design. But we'd need to see the site plan, which I can't seem to find. I can't seem to find the site plan for this to know kind of what the elevations are that would be able to inform me as to whether that is the case or not.
I think this is only your third day working with us, so, and you're not present, so I think I appreciate your joining us as it is. And I think if you can just take a look at that later, and we can have that.
Madam Chair, is there any way that I could be sent the decision that council has referenced? Because the only decision that I have is one that was stamped by the city clerk of May 22nd of 2023.
Okay.
And he was referencing condition 19, but I don't see any numbered condition. The only conditions I see are numbered through 13.
Yeah,
with a review hearing.
We have the decision we're discussing was dated September, or stamped by the clerk September 27th of 2023, and I believe our excellent Ms. Mata is going to email it to you momentarily. So.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Madam Chairman, can I suggest that whoever comes out for the city make an arrangement at the same time? We'll have an engineer from Dulles and Roy there. So whatever the issue is, we can address it and resolve it, and give them an exact timetable, exact measurements of what we're going to do. So they see it. Then we want to get it done. We're willing to spend the money to have Dulles and Roy come out, look at the pipe, tell them when it's going to get done. It may be in the process of getting done. Okay, and then I'll go one step further. That whatever happens at that meeting, Dulles and Roy will substantiate it by a memo to the town as to what exactly is going to happen with the pipe and when it's going to happen. All right, so it's somebody's file, so if we don't do it, you can yell at us, et cetera. All right?
Thank you.
Okay.
I'm going to move to our public comment section now. We have a lot of people here. Before we begin, could anyone who intends to speak please raise your hand? Okay. Okay. All right. So what we're going to do is I'm going to limit comment to 3 minutes per speaker. Okay. We very nicely have a little timer on the podium now so that you can look down and see the light. There's a green, a yellow, and a red. When you start, you're going to be green. When you're getting close, you're going to be yellow. And when it's red, your time has ended. Okay?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
as we enter this phase in the next phases, it would be helpful, at least to me, but perhaps to others, if we reaffirmed what we're here for tonight, and if we would comment on that point to try to focus our attention.
So this was scheduled generally as a review of the special permit. It was not the date originally scheduled. That date in January still stands. But it was advertised as a review. I don't think there is anything that limits our discussion. The intention of the permit holder in asking for the review was to obtain a finding from the board that the easement that was submitted satisfied the conditions under paragraph 19 of the special permit. I'm going to refer to, it is paragraphs 19 and 20, and just so everyone is reminded, I'm going to read them. Permit holder and property owner shall convey and record a conservation easement over the unbuilt land at the northeast perimeter of the premises, encircling the turnabout at the end of Nigel Court, to a nonprofit entity or an abutter with no financial interest in the premises, which shall at a minimum prohibit development of that area or improvement except as depicted on said plan. This easement shall contain or be appended to an engineered or surveyed plan depicting the exact area of the easement. That is condition 19. Condition 20, this easement is in executed form, shall be submitted to the building department and the board within 30 days of the date of this decision and shall be recorded at the Registry of Deeds within 10 days thereafter. Violation of this condition shall constitute sufficient grounds for revocation of the special permit by the board. Does that answer your question?
It does, thank you.
Thank you. All right. I am going to move on to public comment at this point in time. Please raise your hand if you wish to speak. I will call on you in turn. Okay. Gentleman at the back was the first to raise his hand. Please approach the podium, state your name and city of residence for the minutes. You are limited to 3 minutes time, and I would just ask, because time is important to us all, keep your remarks appropriate to the matter and limited in nature. So hopefully I'm going to work this mechanism correctly. And I'm going to start your time. Great. Welcome, sir.
My name's Peter Berger. I live at 114 Nigel Court.
Welcome, sir.
And as far as the drainage system and how it works, I looked at it, and that's basically beyond my capability how it's actually going to work. But I did notice that the land between the two properties, if you look at the stone wall, it looks like it would naturally grade off, except it looks like on the Christian property, about maybe 10 to 20 feet beyond the stone wall, it looks like it might dip down some, so there might always be a puddle that has nothing to do with Woodland Estates. I just wanted to bring up that point.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you for offering your comments, sir. Right. Right.
Can I bring the mic to the fellow in the wheelchair?
Oh, please do.
Can we?
Yes, sir.
This is easier, Jim.
Of course, I can't see the light from here, so you're going to have to, if I go too long, you'll have to tell me.
I'll remind you, but welcome. Thank you for coming to the meeting. Your name and city of residence, please.
My name is James Bennett. I live at 130 Nigel Court, and I'm the president of the Homeowners Association.
Welcome, sir.
And basically, my purpose is to say that I cannot imagine anybody or any organization that would be better suited for supervising this conservation area than those of us that live there. It is our neighborhood. We want it to be good, and we want it taken care of. And
Okay. It's okay.
to that end,
It's okay.
a wise person once said, the good of the many outweigh the good of the few or the one, and we are the many. There's over 40 of us right now, and growing a little bit more. So that in the long run, just restating, I think I enforce the lawyer's opinion that we would be the best people to be in charge of that conservancy.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. And I apologize for the interruption. Our very nice technician was just reminding me that I hadn't reset the 3 minutes, and so that you could have longer to
I was wondering
speak.
if you had.
But you didn't run over at all, so not an issue. And hopefully this time I will reset correctly. Great. Anyone else who would like to speak, please raise your hand. Sir, in the back on the right. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Douglas Caves, 1345 Ringe Road, Butter. Madam Chairman, my concern is with the homeowners, with the proposal for the homeowners to run this conservancy of this easement. It seems to me there must be some financial connection there somewhere, which violates the intent of the decision. And so if that's my question.
Okay. Thank you, sir. All right. Anyone else? Back left, sir? Yeah. And let me start and reset.
Ready? Okay.
Okay. Go ahead, sir.
Hi, I'm George McGee. I'm from 157 Nigel Court. I am also the treasurer of the association, and we have no financial gain whatsoever from this matter. And, you know, I mean, it's a shame. I don't know what you people want to do, but, I mean, we would take care of it. We would make sure nothing ever happened. Nobody ever went on it as far as, what, you know, to build anything. And, you know, I don't really see what the problem is. But we have no financial gain in any way, shape, or form. As a matter of fact, the association, we're pretty broke. Okay? So, you know, really, but we have no financial gain anywhere in anything for this matter. We are just doing it because we live there. We want to see this project completed. We want the abutters happy. We want Joanne happy. We want to be happy, and that's it. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Right. We have some persons online as well, and I see that Ms. Kathleen Deschamps would like to speak. I just want to disclose a matter, and Ms. Deschamps, my apologies on this, but it's something that needs to be disclosed. There was a contact from Ms. Deschamps to my office seeking services. Ms. Deschamps has been redirected to a different office, and services have not been rendered to her. And I just wanted to make everybody aware of that. And Ms. Deschamps, that's not anything you're at fault for at all. So please go ahead, and you're welcome to speak for up to 3 minutes.
Hi, this is Kathy Deschamps, 1307 Ringe Road. I'm a butter. And I just want a clarification on the Woodland Estate group. Do they have the powers to revert the decision and not have the land be an easement and protected from no development? Because my concern is there is a financial gain for the Woodland Estates if they're allowed to build 4 more sites on that, because their costs, their individual costs would be lowered. So if I could get that clarification, I'd feel a lot better. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. What I'm going to do is allow a response, if you would like to, from Attorney Levine on that matter.
I don't know what to say.
No, my understanding, and Joanne can correct me if I'm wrong, she's told me, is additional units don't affect what the individual.
I mean, I don't know what to say about it, because
They
have no,
they're
worried about someone building.
No, but what this woman is asking is, do individual units lower the rent that people pay for their? No.
I think the question was whether the homeowners association could convey, and I'm sorry, I'm using the wrong word, but the corporation, the nonprofit corporation could convey that easement.
No, I don't think they.
The answer to comply with your decision is no. If you want to add a provision to the easement that it can't be transferred or conveyed to any third party, I'm more than happy to do it. You know, the circular reasoning on this is that if we had granted it to the Christensens, okay, they could have conveyed it to somebody. So, you know, but I'm more than happy to put a provision in that the grantee has no power to convey it to anybody else. I just don't want to, you know, this is, you know, kind of a circular reasoning here. And the second thing I would say on this financial stuff, if you take a look at the condition, it says to a nonprofit entity or to an abutter that has no financial interest. Again, you know, my reading of that is that the qualifier is as to an abutter that doesn't have a financial interest. But this, the Woodland Estates Homeowners Association has no financial interest in any event. They've told you that. I'm repeating it. If there's some kind of paranoia that they're going to convey it, you know, to a developer who's going to come in and get the permit amended, I'm more than happy to add a condition to the existing that it can't be, you know, conveyed to any third party. And, you know, but I think it's needless, but, you know, because you're approving this easement, et cetera. All right, so that's.
Okay, thank you, Attorney Levine. I'm going to go back to public comment. So I'm going to go to you, sir, on the right. If you can approach the podium, state your name and city of address, and you're welcome to 3 minutes.
Hi, Mark Christian, 71 Bennett Road. And it was the lawyer that I had hired that was in negotiation. And there was a answer given by Attorney Pusateri. Is this all just up for interpretation? Mr. Pusateri listed Mass General laws that it was in violation of, and he had the answer. Because they don't agree, why are we discussing this? This should be the Mr. Pusateri show, in my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And just the reason that we're discussing this is so that we can have public input on the actions of the government body, which I think is appropriate. All right, I'm going to go back to the online presence. Is there anyone else online who wishes to speak? If so, raise your hand. Okay, I see none there. Is there any other person present who wishes to speak? Welcome. Please approach the podium and state your name and city of residence, and you're welcome to up to 3 minutes.
Before you start the timer, if I can just quickly just say thank you, and I appreciate you answering the question and having somebody there with the commissioner to go over the drainage. I just couldn't understand it looking at it. The water's down here, the pipe's up here, water would back up here before it gets up here. I can be completely wrong, but to have it to understand it would be great. So thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Mary Ellen Mara Christian, 71 Bennett Road, and we're in a butter. So thank you. I think we're here because of the easement complication. So Attorney Levine and his client were working with our attorney, Radigan. Back and forth, we had easement drafts, and at the last hour, they removed us entirely. They removed us entirely from the easement and replaced us with Woodland Estates Homeowners Association, which clearly has an interested financial interest, and we find that this is an absurd result in an entirely useless easement. If the easement is held by the Homeowners Association, it would be self-policing. If the group wanted to be put up a bunch of sheds or carports, who would stop them? If the owner wanted to add more trailers, why would the Homeowners Association report a violation, risking consequences of going against their property owner, who they pay monthly fees to? On October 26th, I received an email from Attorney Radigan, our attorney, stating that the city solicitor, Attorney Pusateri, objected to this easement. I also just want to quickly say, if it did come back to us or another abutter, we're not interested in signing what they've submitted to the city. This should be a conservation easement, not a landscape easement. It should be held in perpetuity. The end result is that all remaining lands are permanently protected from future development, preserving the land to never be built upon, to ensure the land be allowed to remain in natural state and as a buffer to abutting open space. Looking at page 2 of that easement draft that you have, that was presented under agreement on page 2, number 4, there's a modification, and it states that this agreement or any provision thereof may be terminated, modified, or amended. So including that in this proposed easement, I feel is certainly not permanent. That's all I have to say, so thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay. At this point in time, I'm ready to move forward. I think we've had, and I appreciate the comment from every person who came and appreciate the participation in government. I know that our building commissioner is, our interim building commissioner is with us. And if he has any comment on this matter, I'm just going to ask that he give it at this point in time.
Can I just make one comment?
I'm just going to go to the building commissioner first. Okay. But he is muted.
I apologize. I just stepped away for less than a minute, and I apologize what you were asking my opinion on.
Mr. Commissioner, I was just asking if you had any comment to offer on anything before us.
Yes. So thank you, Mercedes, for sending over that decision. I did have the opportunity to read the condition that is being specifically discussed. And from my experience, I just ran into this in another jurisdiction where I was working previously, where the association had oversight over maintenance of lands. And especially concerning that I have is when the association president just stated that they are pretty much broke. So that kind of acts as an incentive or disincentive, I guess, to maintain the land. And a big part of the concern is maintaining it free from constructive nuisances, and in addition to the fact that it's maintaining it, and preventing it from further development. And due to that fact, I have some concerns with having the homeowners association managing it, because I'm concerned that whether they'll be able to maintain the property and whether there's going to be a cause for future enforcement by the city and future issues down the road. I also, when I was looking, found that there are land trusts that do service Fitchburg. And land trusts often are commonly across the country used as stewards to maintain land. The one in particular working in Fitchburg works with walking paths, but it may be worth looking for something similar, either a conservation trust, a land trust, some group that is a nonprofit that has a mission of maintaining and preserving open space, as was the intent of this condition on special permit. I'm just concerned that we will be having complaints for constructive nuisances if the HOA is left to maintaining this.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Appreciate the comment.
Thank you, Madam.
Right. I'm also at this point in time going to go to our city solicitor for any comment he'd like to offer on the easement or the process.
On me?
No comment?
Nothing further that's already been said.
Okay, thank you. Okay. This is not a public hearing, it's a public meeting because it's a review. So there is no need to close it, but I am going to turn to see if any board members have any questions or comments that they want to offer.
Was I correct in hearing this attorney say that our attorney was not happy with the easement that was granted? Is that what you said?
Why don't I take back my last statement and make a statement?
You're welcome to,
My
sir.
clear understanding was that there was a negotiation going on between...
Just a little louder, Vinny, I can
My
hear you.
understanding of our last meeting here was that there was, while the hearing was going on and this decision was being formulated by this board, there was a negotiation going on between the applicant through her attorney and the abutters through their attorney, and that while we were late in the evening and trying to wrap up a final condition, which is what we're here discussing, the general concept was that the specific terms of what the abutters were going to hold as a Conservation Commission were still yet to be somewhat tied down. And then the decision was memorialized to the best of our ability to our volunteer board. It captured the essence of what that was, but not necessarily maybe 100%. And that was then seen as an opportunity perhaps to use the term wiggle out of making a conveyance to the abutting group. And so when the abutters learned of what the proposal was to have the homeowners own the easement, the abutters were obviously felt that there was something less than straightforward unfolding, particularly in connection with their perspective that there was an agreement reached, at least in principle, on who was going to hold the Conservation Commission. I weighed in with an attempt to assist, and I wrote to my good friend, Attorney Levin, and explained to him that the Homeowners Association would certainly, in an analogous situation and not a statute that really controls what we're talking about today, just an analogy. An example, my friend Jim Concannon, formerly of the Zoning Board, used to say, a measuring stick to use, would identify that the Homeowners Association would probably violate the ethics rule, meaning that they would have a financial interest in a matter and therefore wouldn't be able to participate if they were to be public officials. Again, not controlling, just a tool to use to kind of analyze the problem. My friend then pointed out to me correctly, well, so wouldn't the abutters. They would also implicate that. So there's somewhat of an issue there that needs to be something further flushed out. But I always come back to this simple fact that I think there was an agreement reached in principle where the abutters relented their objections to a certain degree, and a compromise was reached, and the board tried to capture that in its decision. So then the dispute arose. Attorney Levin, I think, and myself identified that we need to get it resolved, and the best way to get it resolved is to come back before you. So I think that's why we're here.
Okay. Get that? All of it.
Any other question, Mr. Byrne?
No.
Okay. Mr. McLaughlin, question or comment?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I'm not an attorney, for the record, but I just look at 6 words: no financial interest in the premise. Okay? Everybody that owns one of the manufactured homes on the property has a financial interest. They have a piece, a building that sits on property, okay? So I agree with Attorney Pusateri's original finding and recommendation that this probably wasn't the best decision. We have the North County Land Trust. We have other land trust nonprofits in the area. Maybe we should look at those. I think that we may have disclosed something in all of the decision that maybe we need a bigger nail, that we outline that there will be absolutely no more additional units, construction. Somehow we need to drive a nail in so that there is no further development on this property. And, you know, let's try to achieve that tonight.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Gallagher, any comment or question?
I do not, Madam Chair, but thank you.
Okay, thank you. You know, I'm just going to state that I appreciate Mr. McLaughlin's desire for finality, because I certainly share it. But I'm not certain that this board could not be overruled or modified by a future board, because all boards contain the same authority. So I can no more bind a future board than I can bind myself. Right? When I look at the course of what happened, I just want to say that, Attorney Levine, I very much appreciate that you sent the draft. I think that was appropriate. I think that was sent in good faith, and I think that was very ethical of you. Okay? I just want to be clear about that. As the city solicitor said, we tried to craft a decision that incorporated an agreement for settlement that was happening literally in front of us. That was imperfect at the time. And the comments that were made were comments about the abutter holding the conservation easement, a question about whether it would be more appropriate for North County Land Trust, some other nonprofit corporation that was regularly in the business of holding easements, to hold the easements instead, a question about whether some nonprofit willing to hold the easement could be located with no identity, because we were trying to work this out at the meeting, and a question presented at sidebar to me about the homeowners association, to which my response was, I'm not sure. I think a separate nonprofit entity needs to be created. But what I will say about this, and I just want to be very, again, clear with this. A response was received from the city solicitor that said the interpretation that you took was not correct, that it was not in accordance with the spirit or the intent of the agreement, and the subsequent action of Ms. Hamburg was to have the easement recorded and delivered, executed and delivered. As I have looked, and I don't think it's been recorded at the Registry of Deeds. But it has been recorded by both parties, which means it's been delivered to the recipient. So we now have, it's been executed. If I'm misspeaking, I'm sorry. I know it has not been recorded. But where both parties have executed it, delivery has taken place. delivery of the easement has taken place. And I don't think that was an action that was taken in good faith. I do not. I appreciate your coming back here. I do not agree that this easement was in accordance with the letter or the spirit of that decision or the compromise. I don't think any person present in the homeowners association is a person of ill will or ill intent. But when the corporate documents are examined for the homeowners association, their objectives include providing affordable manufactured home sites, and to control rental costs, and to preserve the affordability of the community. And I can very easily imagine future members of the homeowners association who would be willing to convey the easement back to the property owner. And where there are numerous other options for some entity or an abutter to hold this easement, I think this was done, again, for a particular reason that related to the interests of the property owner. I am one board member, but I do not think that easement meets the terms of this special permit, and I would not vote in favor of finding that it did.
Madam Chair, can I ask a question maybe to expedite?
Sure.
Again, as I indicated in the beginning, I had asked whether we could do this with the city of Fitchburg and enter into a true conservation restriction, and I was told that wasn't going to go anywhere. My client changed her mind in terms of agreeing to grant it, and under the language which I don't, you say isn't perfect. I don't want to argue one way or another. I gave it to nonprofit homeowners association. If I could be given a month or two to seek out, this gentleman mentioned North County, whatever. I wasn't given any choices. It was A or B. I'd be more than happy to at least see if any of those entities would accept it. Failing of which the board can, do what they think is appropriate.
The homeowners association is going to have to join in the conveyance at this point.
I will deal. We will take. We were required under the decision to, deliver within 30 days an executed easement. Okay, and the assumption when you read the decision was the board or the building inspector, would say yea or nay if there was a problem with it. So obviously we were obligated, whoever we granted it to give it to the building inspector so he could approve it. So this delivery, I think, was always subject to the city's approval. This wasn't just a deed between one party and the other. But if, in fact, there is another nonprofit out there that is more in line, with the suggestion, then I would be more than happy to see if they'd be willing to accept it and submit that.
So Attorney Radigan replied in this email chain, "My client remains willing to be the holder of the easement that we mutually prepared."
I understand. Look, in total honesty and candor, and by the way, the language that somebody mentioned about you can modify it, I think Ms. Christensen mentioned, that was drafted by her attorney, okay? So, and I don't hold anything against them for having drafted it, but we have no intention to modify it. My client, I'm not going to lie, didn't want to grant it, to Christensen. And, I mean, we can, go in circles.
And I understand that, but then an appropriate substitute should have been.
So that's why I asked the board, okay? It's a nonprofit, and with all due respect, this financial issue was, to me, linked to an abutter and not linked to the nonprofit. So we are here tonight. I guess choice A is for board just to decide what they want to do, or choice B is to give me a month or two to see if I can find a nonprofit that's acceptable to the city, to grant the easement to. That's it. There's no more to say about it,
Okay, thank you then. Appreciate it. And I appreciate the offer from you, Attorney Levine.
Now, let me understand this, Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr.
Did that lawyer just say that they are willing to change the easement so that it goes to another trust other than the homeowners association? Is that what I heard him say?
That is what he said. And then there's the issue of the homeowners association currently holds it, so they're going to have to join in.
Put it on as a condition.
Okay. Any other board member have a comment? Mr. McLaughlin?
That we move to, that we continue this to the January 9th review date to give them time to resolve it.
Okay. I would like to discuss two other things before we do that. And to my knowledge, again, we have been very clear about this with the property of owner. And I think we've been clear that given the history, if there is an issue of noncompliance, the board is going to move forward to execute its authority such that it has for imposement of a fine or revocation of the special permit. And I really don't want to leave that issue hanging. The building commissioner imposes the fines. The boards can only make finding as to violation and make a recommendation as to the fine. So whether a fine is levied or not is up to the building commissioner. This board, of course, can vote to revoke the special permit or modify the conditions. Having seen the, Mr. Commissioner, I do see your hand is raised. I just want to finish my sentence. I do appreciate the statements and the offer that Attorney Levine has made for modification. As I came here tonight, my thought was that the $300 a day fine needed to be imposed because clearly that condition has been violated. And in addition to that, that the condition should be modified so that if the appropriate easement meeting that condition was not recorded within 14 days, that there would be an automatic revocation of the special permit. I am open to discussion on that. I do appreciate Attorney Levine's offer in coming here today. Mr. Commissioner, welcome your comment at this point in time.
Building commissioner, not you.
Thank you. I apologize. I had to unmute. What I was going to comment is looking at the conditions. The applicant had until December 31st. The qualifier for it is the applicant shall be subject to a daily fine of $300 if all the above items are not completed by December 31st. So
if you look at condition number 20,
okay,
there's a different deadline.
Okay.
And that deadline was, in essence, 40 days after the recording of the special permit decision on September 27th.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Absolutely.
That was my only question.
I just want to commend you on reading as much of that decision as you did in the short time that you have had with it. So,
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's my pleasure.
all right, I'm going to ask if any board member has any comment on that proposal or would like to make a different proposal.
Are we closed?
We haven't closed because this isn't a public hearing. It's a public meeting, so, and there's no motion laid on the table. Would you like to hear from Attorney Levine? Okay, go ahead, Attorney Levine.
Madam Chair, in all fairness, okay, there was a disagreement. Mr. Pusateri said various things, why he was concerned. He was speaking to Christensen in the beginning. Okay, and the bottom line is, although I disagree with him and I pointed out his references, I'm not going to get into my conversations, with Mr. Pusateri, but what was suggested, okay, was that we put the matter in front of the board to say yea or nay, and that we wouldn't record the easement, okay, until we had a yea or nay. And so I'd asked for it to happen as soon as possible. I'd asked to run it by the chair, to do whatever. I mean, we weren't hiding or not doing what we were asked to do. And the idea was to come here tonight and to find out, whether or not the board affirmed or didn't affirm the proposed easement agreement. Simply, so, $300 a day fine that we didn't compliance is we did do everything we could to comply. To be honest, we were supposed to submit it to the building department. This inappropriately, both at my end, town council's end, and the Christensen attorney got involved with lawyers rather than the board. And as I said from the beginning, it's the board's decision. It's really not a bunch of lawyers' decisions as to what they intended, and that's what I kept saying, So it did say what it said. My client didn't want to, grant it to Christensen. They wanted to grant it to these homeowners. Again, I had reached out before. I don't think discussions of fines are appropriate. There was no intention to violate anything. In fact, I'm the one that pushed to get in front of this board. Okay? Otherwise, we would have just had a standoff, and I wanted a decision from the board. Okay? And I asked to have it done as soon as it could be done. And then, it just took a while, and you had meetings of the 14th. I thought we were on the 14th, then we got on the 16th, et cetera. So it wasn't that we were violating, we were just left in an abyss, and it did say what it said to a nonprofit. Nobody qualified the nonprofit. I understand exactly what you're saying tonight, and that's why, you get to make the decision, not city solicitor, and not me. Okay, you need to, think what's appropriate. The gentleman made a suggestion that he would be more comfortable, potentially, if we found, a third-party conservation trust. And I tried to do that when we first started. And like I said, I wanted to do a true conservation easement that would be in perpetuity, but you need to do that with a true conservation agency. The state won't accept them otherwise. All right, so I wanted to do it with the Conservation Commission. I was told in Fitchburg you couldn't do that. All right, that was the end of my search. And also we had a very limited period of time to go out and do it. If I can be given more time, I will make my best efforts. Or if the board says, no, we want to grant it to whoever, then that's the end of it. And we'll go forthwith. There was never an intention. In fact, it was a total intention of compliance here, all right, from the very beginning.
I just want to say, Attorney Levine, I very much appreciate your advocacy on behalf of your client on this. And again, I appreciate the offer to find a suitable person to hold or entity to hold the conservation easement. And I do hope that the intention to do that follows through. And I want to be clear that I am not imputing any allegation of bad faith to your representation.
No, I said, well,
and if this discussion had stopped before the execution of that easement, I would be in agreement with you that there was a disagreement, the disagreement is resolved, and now we can move forward. But the execution of that agreement and the refusal to take an option that was clearly before you if the only concern was compliance with the conditions, the only concern was one of the abutters. It was offered. It is not acceptable to Ms. Hamburg, clearly. But that is not what was presented to this board on the night that we made a compromise in a decision that we had worked very hard to reach because the parties before us evidenced that they had reached a compromise. And we wanted to settle the matter and move it on for everyone involved. I think we still want to do that. But I don't think it's appropriate to deal with a party before the board who acts in bad faith and to let that go and just pass. I think there needs to be, and again, fines are in the purview of the commissioner. We can only recommend. But I think that the execution of that agreement was a clear act of bad faith. And I
don't argue.
Yeah, I do. And again, not imputing any intent to act inappropriately to the homeowners association, but the homeowners association is an entity whose members will change and conditions change, and there is not what was agreed upon, which is a permanent guarantee that that property is not going to be built on. That's my opinion. I am, in my opinion, open to a modification of the terms for revocation and, of course, other suggestions on recommended fines.
Your recommendation is?
When I came here, my recommendation thought was $300 a day until the violation is amended, and automatic revocation of the special permit if the condition was not complied upon within 14 days, which would bring us to December the 1st. I'm willing to, I don't want to have a meeting on this again before January. I think we've given a lot of time to this permit holder.
Put that in the form of a motion and let's move on.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Any discussion from the board?
Yeah, I think what I understand you saying, I'm persuaded by the idea of...
Don't we need a motion before we have discussion?
No, we can have discussion at any point in time, but once we have a motion,
All right.
there's no reopening until the motion is resolved. So,
I'm persuaded by the idea that I believe the message is received about the intent, and I also appreciate that to go and find a suitable party would take some time. So I think that our condition number 20 states a certain period of time. I would suggest that we would modify condition 20 to extend that time to say, go find this third party. And I would suggest that we would modify 20 to coincide with the January 9th meeting.
okay. Mr. Byrne, any comment?
Or December 31st, which is...
Let me think about this for a second.
Okay. Mr. Gallagher, any comment?
I do not, no.
Okay. Mr. McLaughlin, any comment?
just hope that the applicant, not the applicant's attorney, understands that we all work together to craft this up. And there was some blatant disregard for this. We all worked hard. And it's really, we put a lot of effort into this. And here we are tonight trying to resolve an issue that shouldn't be before us. Madam Chair, if you care to allow the applicant, I believe she's
I know she
wanting
is.
to make some comments tonight, but
I know she wants to make some comments.
your purview to allow her to speak.
Yes. I'm going to make a comment just in response to Mr. Reynolds, who I think is a person of good faith who is generally hopeful in the goodness of others. So I am not persuaded. I'm not persuaded. I think without consequence, we have a lot of conditions in here that are related to time and completion. And I was encouraged to see a lot of progress on those that was reported to us. But there are many in there. And I think the further transgressions we let go, we are just going to encourage more of them.
I considered in my language the enablement factor, which is what I'm interpreting what you're saying, and I do not want to enable poor behavior. Not interested in doing that. My thought of making that thought vocal, was that an acknowledgement that in action, or some steps towards an action of recording or whatever the right legal language is, that might suggest that there was compliance, may put us in another spin, and I'm not interested in going into another spin. So I don't want to enable poor behavior. I don't want to go into another spin. If the solution is allowing a modicum, some element of time, then that's the reason why I'm suggesting it's not just a blind faith, hey, Pollyanna, everything's okay.
Yeah. No, it's...
I'm just trying to express my motivation.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. I know that this board is certainly tired of dealing with this particular issue. I don't necessarily think that that sense of compromise is going to eliminate all possibility of future appeals, future litigation, future actions filed by the permit holder. Although one is always hopeful that compromise can be struck and settlement can be reached. I would be, given the progress that's made on the project and the representations of Attorney Levine today, I would be willing to modify that to a $300 a week fine recommendation to the building commissioner, and to have the extension of that condition to December 31st, but I'm not going to, I am not in favor of modifying the condition as to who or what may hold the easement.
I think the suggestion you just said is very reasonable.
Thank you.
Put a motion on the table,
Okay. In your motion, sir.
and that would be, before I put the motion, I'd just like to discuss, is it just best to do a January 9th, 2024?
I wouldn't be an
Deadline.
objection.
You want to see it recorded and everything
And
buttoned
submitted.
up before the meeting.
Mhm.
So we'll keep it at the December 31st, 2023.
Well, looking at the condition as written, it says The easement in executed form shall be submitted to the building department and the board within 30 days of the date of this decision. So we could modify that to say by December 31st, 2024. What day of the week is that?
2024.
December 31st, 2023.
2023. That's a Sunday. So let's make that,
January 5th? No, can't be. Because we got a meeting on the 3rd, right?
our meeting is going to be on the 9th.
So why not January 5th?
I'd prefer that we, I really don't want to interfere in any Christmas plans.
Give us the date.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. January 4th, that is Thursday.
That's a compromise, okay.
So, the easement in executed form shall be submitted to the building department and the board on or before January 4th, 2024, and shall be recorded at the Registry of Deeds with, and originally it says within 10 days thereafter. And we would modify that to January 9th, 2024.
So I'll make that motion with that language, and inclusive of that would be a $300 per week fine.
Inclusive of that would be, we have a recommendation to the building commissioner, as well as a finding that the permit holder is in violation of conditions 19 and 20, as originally issued.
Madam Chairman, could you repeat it? Just can't hear it here.
So I've given Attorney Levine, I've given you a very extensive opportunity to speak.
No, I don't want to speak. We can't hear you.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
We
So
just
sorry
can't
about
hear
that.
what, whatever the motion or whatever you're saying, that's all.
Yep. So the proposal would be that the easement should be submitted to the building department and the board by January 4th, 2024, recorded by January 9th, 2024, and, you know, hopefully the holidays will not interfere with that. That the board make a finding that the permit holder is in violation of conditions 19 and 20 at the present time, and that the board recommend a $300 a week fine be imposed upon the permit holder by the building commissioner until compliance is achieved.
So that motion is made under case ZBA 2023-08 for Joanne Hamburg for the property 1349 Ridge Road.
Okay. Do we have a second on the motion?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion on the motion? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? None. The motion carries. So, at this point in time, I think that the meeting on this matter is concluded. Thank you, everybody who attended today. I appreciate your contributions. We have an item on the agenda about modifications to the rules that we are not going to address this evening. So if anyone has a motion to make for closing this meeting or adjourning.
So moved.
Shall we adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
We're adjourned. Thank you.